Welcome to Point of View. Today we are talking about something some have called the conspiracy theory, but it's hard to call it a conspiracy theory when the people involved admit that it's true. So I don't know how it could be called conspiracy theory. We're talking about the World Economic Forum and the desire of the World Economic Forum to form a sort of world utopia, one world government sort of a thing. And it sounds, you say, first thing you hear it, right? If you've never heard of this before, you're like, whoa, that's a conspiracy theory. It's really not. Whether or not they're going to be successful, right? We're not going to try to comment on whether or not they're going to be successful, at least not initially. We're just analyzing here whether or not that's the goal of the World Economic Forum. And it seems very obvious, like they're admitting this. This is not really hidden at all. And what we want to discuss today is this a good thing or a bad thing? Now you say, well, it's a bad thing, one world government. But let's talk about why. Let's talk about why it's a bad thing if you think it's a bad thing. Or if you think it's a good thing, let's talk about why it's a bad thing. Okay. But anyway, so this is the show, Point of View. This is a show where we're unashamed to look at political, social, cultural, and theological issues from a biblical worldview. We do that because Jesus died on the cross. He rose from the dead. And he said the Bible is true, which means we can't be right about issues unless we agree with Jesus and the Bible on those issues. So we want to be right about an issue. We got to make sure we're biblical about it. I'm Pastor Josh Barnes. This is my brother, Jonathan Barnes. And Jonathan's a former member of the World Economic Forum. No, I'm just kidding. That's total lie. But the rest of everything else we're going to say here is going to be true. Let's.
Ruined now.
This is a great intro. Let me, Jonathan. Have you seen this video about the Great Reset from the World Economic Forum? Played at the World Economic Forum several years ago.
I have not. I'm going to be going into this a little bit blind. I did see a couple videos from the World Economic Forum from this year, but no, not about the Great Reset. I've heard some kind of fringe things about it. Like you said, it kind of seemed like a conspiracy theory before. This year specifically, I guess, it's really kind of hit home, and it's like, this is not Alex Jones calling frogs gay, right? This is kind of next level scary.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, no, it really is. And so this video I'm about to play you was actually put out by the World Economic Forum. You can find it on their YouTube page, and it's from 2020, and it's talking about resetting the world, the globe, after the crisis of COVID-19. They're looking at using the crisis as a way to sort of reset and to fix things that they think are wrong with the world. And here's the video. It's quite disturbing. Okay, so your first thoughts are, what did I just see? Right? Am I right?
Yeah, a little bit.
You got to break it down a little bit and know a little bit about what the World Economic Forum is all about, what they're trying to do. So the World Economic Forum meets in Switzerland, I think Davos, every year, and their goal is to come together as a world to solve basically progressive problems. to solve climate change, which is all things to advance the progressive agenda, to solve racism, to solve, all of these crises mean banding together as as a one world government. And here is from this year, just 2 months ago. I'm going to play a clip of, let's see if I've got her name here. It is Julie Inman Grant, who's Australia's e-safety commissioner. She's going to say we need to recalibrate a whole range of human rights, including free speech and online violence. She's going to say that was this year, just a few weeks ago when they met this year. The point is that when they're going through this video and talking about this great reset, they're talking about how everyone has a role to play in resetting things after these tragedies. And the roles that they're playing are the Black Lives Matter, the George Floyd stuff, all of the things. Basically, they're saying this is a great opportunity for us to accomplish our goals and our agendas through when crises happen. We want to use that as an opportunity to reset things so that they're not conservative, so that they're not that way, so that we can get our agenda across, which is a clearly very progressive agenda, as you'll see in just a moment. Jonathan, knowing, sort of what they have in mind when they talk about this great reset, do you think that that video is disturbing? Do you think it's blown out of proportion by people who are disturbed by it? What do you think?
Well, in today's day and age, I don't know if you can blow anything out of proportion anymore. Everything is just so many different levels of crazy. So I think it kind of goes back to we've talked about before, and it's been talked about for decades, how a Democrat never lets a good crisis go to waste. There's kind of the conspiracy theories out there that say, they started this, they did this. Maybe not. However, I think they're very good at not letting a crisis go to waste, and this is kind of the culmination of that. It seems, this is, we finally have the big one, and we are going to make the big capitalization on that, and that is very, very concerning.
Yeah. Here's some reporting, just to give you a little bit more backstory on the World Economic Forum. This is some reporting from 2020, the same year that this video came out, from CBN. That's Christian Broadcasting News. I think that's what CBN stands for. And network, probably, not news. CBN News, Christian Broadcasting Network. And here is some reporting. I won't play the whole thing, but here's what they reported on this.
Here's a video of your future if some people at the World Economic Forum get their way. They say you'll own nothing and be happy about it. Energy will be green, rationed, and expensive. And travel will be restricted. Even your diet will be controlled. And currency will be digital. This left-wing dystopian dream is called the Great Reset. And you're supposed to be excited about it. The Great Reset has been labeled a conspiracy theory and even sounds like a conspiracy theory. But everything we know about it comes from the global elites themselves, who have been quite open about it.
This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a well-documented movement among many of the world's most powerful people.
Justin Haskins is a leading authority on the Great Reset.
Fundamentally, this is a radical and complete transformation of everything that we do in our society to control people's behaviors, to control businesses, and to move society in the direction that you want to move it. It will change the way businesses are evaluated. It'll coerce businesses to pursue left-wing causes.
The Great Reset was unveiled at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, where many of the world's most powerful people go to offer solutions to the world's problems. And the World Economic Forum sees the coronavirus pandemic as a historic opportunity to change the way the world operates.
Right now we're facing a crisis of international proportion. It's going to have long-term impact for us.
Their solution is essentially global socialism. Think of the Green New Deal combined with the COVID-19 lockdown restrictions, and throw in something called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, in which technology is supposed to radically change the way we live and work. Klaus Schwab is the founder of the World Economic Forum.
What the Fourth Industrial Revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital and our biological identities.
It has the support not only of world leaders, but of global corporations like MasterCard and BP, brought to you by people who think they know what's best for you.
By giving, the elites, the technocrats in society, the most educated people, the ability to manipulate society, pull the levers in society, and manage and manipulate society so that it's, in their minds, perfect.
But a Trump re-election would blow a massive...
Okay, so the rest of it goes on to talk about more current events back in 2020, about the desire of Trump to be reelected, and how those who are looking for advancing the global agenda of the World Economic Forum and such are against Trump being reelected because he would stand in the way. Of course, this story was back in 2020. Okay, so we're talking about old news so far, and then I'm going to play you a clip from this year, from just a few weeks ago, where we're seeing this continue. But you're seeing here that this is the admitted goals. These are things that they're admitting. They want to change it so that we have one economy, one currency, and they want to bring it together where machines are basically taking over for a lot of the things that become a very even more integral part of our lives. But here's the question. Is this a problem? Before we play the video that makes it seem very obviously to be a problem, is this an actual problem so far from what you can understand, Jonathan?
Yeah. Being an American citizen, you should have a problem with this. I mean, a one world government, one world anything is incredibly nerve-wracking. Our freedoms were fought for, back in the 1700s, and we are a separate country, and we live in a world of separate countries for a good reason. When a Democrat gets elected, the Republicans, and then the Republicans get elected, and the Democrats will say, well, I don't like it here, I can leave. Yeah, well, what if there's a one world government? You can't leave. That's the end of it. The freedom is just completely gone. This really kind of makes me think of, I don't know if you've ever heard of Agenda 21, but that was kind of a big thing back in the mid 2010s, I guess. And they kind of took that down from the UN. But that's kind of what this looks like. One global institution controlling everything. Everything, flows right through the left-wing ideology, right? Just massive amounts of control. There's no individual liberty whatsoever. I think everybody should be very concerned, no matter where you are on the side, left, right, everybody should be very concerned about this.
So I want to use a hypothetical. Let's say hypothetically that the World Economic Forum was conservative, okay, or they were trying to advance conservative goals and values by means of making a one world government that was conservative. I would still be very much against it. And here's the reason. Because it doesn't really matter what kind of policies. And when I say conservative, you can't really even be real literal with even that, because conservative is about small government. So
yeah, I was going to say, I'd push back on that premise, because individual liberty is kind of the bedrock of conservatism, and they would not be interested in that.
But that's the problem with a one world government. The bigger the government gets, the smaller the individual gets. That's why the United States was designed with a small federal government. And it broke things down so that you had a state government, you had local town governments, and it broke things down so that you as an individual and your vote had more impact and made more made more of an effect. Because when you vote in a smaller community, your vote counts for more. Right? You can have more of an impact individually. So the most of the laws were intended to be in small group settings. And then you have just only what's absolutely necessary, military and things like that, in the federal government. Well, the federal government isn't like that anymore. It's giant, it's massive, it's huge, and Republicans have added to that just as much as Democrats, or almost as much as them. But that's not the conservative view. Imagine, though, As bad as our government is now because of how big and powerful it is, imagine just multiplying that to be a world government. That's insane, an insane amount of power that rips all power away from people, even if we were voting for the emperor of the world, which we wouldn't, obviously, because if he's in charge of the world, he's going to make sure that it happens however he wants it to happen. So no, this is definitely going to erase liberties and freedoms, and we can prove that that's exactly what they want to do. Here's that video I told you I'd give you from Julie Inman Grant in the World Economic Forum 2020 just a few weeks ago.
We are finding ourselves in a place where we have increasing polarization everywhere, and everything feels binary when it doesn't need to be. So I think we're going to have to think about a recalibration of a whole range of human rights that are playing out online, from freedom of speech to the freedom to, to be free from online violence, or the right of data protection to the right to child dignity.
The right of data protection, meaning privacy, to the right of child dignity. So that means, are you forcing your children to be, the way I'm interpreting this, are you forcing your children to be male just because they have male genitalia? Then you don't have privacy in your own home to do that, because that's not it's against child dignity. That's all, and you certainly don't have free speech because we can't have violence with words online, because words are violence, of course. You see then that the goal of the World Economic Forum is not just to take over the world, but to take over the world as a dictatorship and force all nations of the world to submit to a new definition of free speech, a new definition of freedom that isn't freedom at all.
Yeah. And she references, as you said, social media. And we've had this discussion before in America about to what level should social media be able to censor conservative speak generally, because that's what they do. They don't really censor anything else. But the argument is made, well, they're a private company. This is not a private company. This is somebody who's interested in taking over as a world government, and they're saying, freedom of speech is on the table. We got to look at that. If you're a Christian, that's incredibly concerning. Because do you think these guys are going to be on the side of you having freedom of religion? Because they're not. That's not what's going to happen. So your religious liberties are there, and that's really where it hits home, for Christians.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just say, for Christians, this is hugely important, because we do know, and now there's some disagreement from people who would be post-millennial or amillennial in their end times views, but I think the book of Daniel makes it really clear that before Jesus returns, there's going to be this world government that takes over, and it's gonna have 10 kings, and then they're gonna give their power to one guy, the guy that everyone refers to just as the Antichrist. This is pretty obvious in Scripture, and there's some people who say, no, that's figurative, and I want to give grace to those people who disagree with me, but you can see how that's definitely possible through something like this, right? So the idea, though, is that when this happens in the Scriptures, whether it's figurative or not, and I'm argue that it's not, but even if it's figurative, the Scripture is very clear that this means bad things for Christians. Like when there's one world government who wants to control speech, it always means persecution of believers, and that's the story of the end times with this Antichrist, is that when he takes over, he doesn't like people who have different opinions. And of course, in the end times, he claims that he's God and is going to persecute believers. So what I'm saying is that when we boil it down to, should we be in support of this? Obviously, no. But let's get a little more specific. Because, Jonathan, I think there are some politicians out there that we may not even know are very closely tied to the agenda of the World Economic Forum. I know you've kind of run into this recently. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I looked into it a little bit because I live in Pennsylvania, and we recently had our primary race, and one of the guys running for senator, for the Republican Party, he's part of the World Economic Forum, and you might have heard of Mehmet Oz. He's listed on the World Economic Forum website, although his kind of connection to them is kind of unknown. They could just have his name for name recognition. We're not sure. But generally speaking, you have more Democrats that attend the World Economic Forum. I had two people from our state, from the state of Pennsylvania, attend the Economic Forum as Republicans. Our sitting Republican Senator Pat Toomey and the representative from my district, Dan Muser, went to the Economic Forum, and these guys are Republicans. These guys represent the red part. I mean, Pennsylvania is a very red state aside from the cities. These guys are from like very blue collar areas, and to see them representing the Pennsylvania or the United States at a place like the Economic Forum is disturbing.
Yeah. Do you know, and maybe this wasn't, you didn't get this far in depth as you did your research on it, but do you know at all if they were attending, like, I'm trying to think. What I like to do is steel man the other person's argument, which is the opposite of straw man, right? Straw man is making it weak so you can take it down. Let's think about the best argument. If you were to bring this up to them, what would be the best response? Well, I would think that the best response that they might be able to try to say is, no, we went there to have a conservative influence, to try to make it not so, terribly liberal. Do you know if attending means supporting? Did they speak at it, or could they try to say, well, no, I was just there because I was invited and I wanted to see what was going on?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know. I didn't see any of their speeches, if they had any at all. I can tell you that Pat Toomey is not in the good graces of the Republican Party. He spoke out against Donald Trump. He supported certain gun control measures in the Senate, and he was censored and ultimately was not able to run this year because the Republican Party, he's still technically a Republican, but we're kind of done with him. So my guess is there was no conservative lean there from these guys. Dan Muser, he's still kind of in the good graces, but there's some big questions about him, even when he was running. So yeah, it doesn't really look like that from where I'm standing, though I can't really say for sure.
And just to be realistic about it, if they just wanted to know what was going on, they could watch it. Right? They didn't have to attend. Right? Attending makes a statement. And they could have come out and made a statement. Hey, I'm attending to try to thwart their whatever. They could have made that statement before or after they attended, and they certainly didn't. So I think that says everything we need to know.
I'll say this: your Ted Cruz's, your Rand Paul's, your super conservative people, they were definitely not there. Yeah. If there was a chance to kind of slide in there and say, hey, let's speak out against this from there, they're not going to really let you in there. Their agenda is their agenda. So you get invited there because you are who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly right. Okay. So, all right, listen, guys, this is sort of like the mother of all the conspiracy theories, because you hear conspiracy theories about how people want to regulate global population, how they want to use climate change as ways to force and control people with green initiatives, how they want to get a one world currency, how they want to use crises to accomplish this or that. These are not all things that the World Economic Forum has necessarily done, but it's certainly things that they are trying to do. Right? We cannot go back and say, well, see, they were the masterminds behind COVID-19. Now, I wouldn't put it past them. They certainly want to do things like that. I'm not trying to say that we can look at the past and say this was the fault of the World Economic Forum, but I can look at things like that and say these are the types of things that the World Economic Forum enjoys. They are looking for crises in order to use them to take to take their agenda, to move their agenda forward. So I'm not trying to step beyond what we know, but what we know, what they have admitted to us, really confirms at least their motive behind a lot of the claims of conspiracy theorists. So I say it again, I've said it so many times recently. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I am not going to support the World Economic Forum. And as a Christian, you shouldn't either. And you should make sure that the politicians you vote for don't. Like, that's important. It really is. Yeah. Now, what if a Christian, Jonathan, tells you, hey, look, I want to support the World Economic Forum because I want the Antichrist to come and I want to get out of here. I want Jesus to come back. Is that really the way we should be trying to usher in the kingdom of God?
I would say no, because, okay, so here's the thing.
It's not quite, but it's almost like taking the mark of the beast, isn't it?
Okay, now we're getting off. Taking the mark of the beast. We're not going back to that.
I'm just saying, supporting the Antichrist in order to bring Jesus back is kind of like the opposite of what you should be doing.
Yes, I would say you're probably right on that. So, I mean, as you said, you kind of alluded to this before, and this is kind of my thoughts on the matter. You have everybody, every age has been in, has had a group of people that said, here it is. This is the end times. This is it. This is the mark of the beast. This is, this is this person. This is that person. This has to be the Antichrist. We are there. You have it in the Middle Ages. You have it, every single kind of generation has this. So I'm very hesitant to say this right. Has to be it. However, like you said, we have from Scripture a very distinct layout of what happens when these sorts of things do happen, and it is not good for Christians.
Yeah,
there will be Christians in the end times, and they are persecuted mercilessly. They are killed by the millions, by the thousands, by the millions. This is not a good thing, even whether it's the end times or not. Even if it's just something sort of a precursor to it.
Right.
If it follows the same path, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, we have to say that if this is to happen, right? If this is that final time when God finally says, all right, this is the one, when we don't know that. It could be 100, 1,000 years from now when Jesus decides to come back. But if this is that time, let it be said that we stood against it. Let it be said that we stood against it and we were not for it. We did not support it. Jonathan, have you ever read the Epoch Times?
No, I have not.
It's an amazing paper. Okay, so it's an actual newspaper. I know this is like old school, but it's a newspaper that gets you order it, and right now you can get a subscription to it for $1 for the first month. $1 when you use the promo code RAM, and you get to support shows like Point of View on RAM. I don't get paid any money for it. It's only $1 for your first month subscription, and this stuff is actual real news. Awesome, and my kids love the comics as well. So, guys, go check that out. Use the promo code RAM at ireadepoch.com. And that's all the time we have for today. We'll see you next time on Point of View.